The Young Turks and Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk have teamed up with veterans of Bernie Sanders' campaign to launch a new initiative to take over the Democratic Party once and for all. So it's called Justice Democrats, and this is something that I am overwhelmingly excited about. Now, the first question, before we even get to what Justice Democrats are, is why even bother with the Democratic Party? Because I talk about how the Democratic Party is a lost cause and how they're rotten to the core. So why not just start a new party? Why not take all of the resources that Justice Democrats can raise and funnel this towards creating a brand new party that we're in control of? Well, I'll let Kyle Kulinski explain why that might not be the best strategy.
And all of the institutional biases against third parties are so immensely strong that we're effectively handicapping ourselves if we go into it trying to do a third party. It's like taking a sledgehammer, swinging it at your kneecap, and then saying, okay, now it's time to go run that marathon you spoke about. Well, if I'm going to run the marathon, I should be in tip-top shape now, shouldn't I? I should give myself the best possible chance, not the worst chance. So, for example, the Green Party, who I absolutely love, they've had some successes here and there, but by and large, they are not what's viewed as a viable third party. And again, it's not their fault. It's the fault of the institutional biases against them and against third parties in general. But if you're a member of the Green Party and you're a member of the Democratic Socialists, let me tell you right now, you are our allies. I view you as our allies. So I don't want people to take it the wrong way. I need them to understand exactly where we're coming from. And if you read the platform of the Justice Democrats, we specifically refer to reforms that we favor that would help third parties and remove some of those institutional biases. But based on our calculations, our highest chance of winning and actually getting the policies we want implemented is to take
The Young Turks and Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk have teamed up with veterans of Bernie Sanders' campaign to launch a new initiative to take over the Democratic Party once and for all. So it's called Justice Democrats, and this is something that I am overwhelmingly excited about. Now, the first question, before we even get to what Justice Democrats are, is why even bother with the Democratic Party? Because I talk about how the Democratic Party is a lost cause and how they're rotten to the core. So why not just start a new party? Why not take all of the resources that Justice Democrats can raise and funnel this towards creating a brand new party that we're in control of? Well, I'll let Kyle Kulinski explain why that might not be the best strategy.
And all of the institutional biases against third parties are so immensely strong that we're effectively handicapping ourselves if we go into it trying to do a third party. It's like taking a sledgehammer, swinging it at your kneecap, and then saying, okay, now it's time to go run that marathon you spoke about. Well, if I'm going to run the marathon, I should be in tip-top shape now, shouldn't I? I should give myself the best possible chance, not the worst chance. So, for example, the Green Party, who I absolutely love, they've had some successes here and there, but by and large, they are not what's viewed as a viable third party. And again, it's not their fault. It's the fault of the institutional biases against them and against third parties in general. But if you're a member of the Green Party and you're a member of the Democratic Socialists, let me tell you right now, you are our allies. I view you as our allies. So I don't want people to take it the wrong way. I need them to understand exactly where we're coming from. And if you read the platform of the Justice Democrats, we specifically refer to reforms that we favor that would help third parties and remove some of those institutional biases. But based on our calculations, our highest chance of winning and actually getting the policies we want implemented is to take over the Democratic Party.
So in my opinion, I think Kyle's logic here is absolutely sound. And I've kind of made similar arguments here. I've stated that, yes, unfortunately, we have to begrudgingly work within the Democratic Party, but simultaneously try to build a viable third-party alternative because, unfortunately,
welcome to the first episode, I guess we can call it, first time meeting in this capacity, the post-duopoly show hosted by RBN, and we have HardLens Media, and Do Dissidence, along with RBN for this stream. This is a powerhouse, but welcome, gentlemen, to the show. We'll start with Kit and go to Do Dissidence. What's up, Kit?
It's first of all, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be on this outstanding power panel in regards to discussing, well, what the hell happened to the infamous progressive movement that was gaining momentum in 2016. As always, I think it's important for us to look at this not only through our own biases, but also to look at what went wrong and how can we deviate away from this epic failure of relying on the two-party system. I know I have been criticized very a lot, at least since we started HardLens, about how I've been going after the Democratic Party. Look, I'm just as critical of the GOP too, but we got to break away from the two-party system. And this is a discussion that is greatly needed, especially with all of the current events that we'll get into in regards to the failure of the Bernie Sanders industrial complex that you guys have coined. And again, it's something that needs to be discussed right away. There you go.
We'll go to Keaton and then Russell.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Mike Figueredo. It's great to be here with you all. I just realized in watching that, I look like Mike Figueredo after his life has gone sideways. That's kind of what I look like now. Looking at that spring chicken back there. What was that, 6 years back
ago.
by now? Yeah, insane. No, obviously always great to talk to you guys, and this should be a really fun time. And yeah, I mean, look, I think you guys mentioned when we were on your show last time that you guys started post-Bernie 2020, which I think is really significant because, you know, you guys didn't build your show on a presidential campaign. You built your whole network here in the aftermath of a failed presidential campaign. And that's a real difference between the way you guys built your audience and the way those guys that we just saw built theirs. And I think that plays a huge part in what we talk about when we talk about the Bernie Sanders industrial complex. So should be a great time. Always great to see you guys. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And Russell.
This isn't the show with Ole Emmy? I thought we were gonna be with David Dahl. No.
Post-duopoly left.
The
leftist mafia.
Where's the cartoon Illuminati person? The cartoon.
They're the leftist mafia that only talk about red blue shit.
Yeah.
Leftist mafia, but we're not going to cover Ukraine. Leftist mafia, but we're not going to cover the multiple genocides of the Biden administration. Man, we are such a leftist mob, but we only cover.
See, that was what I prepared. I prepared for a totally different show. You know, they always talk about how the presidency ages you. They never talk about how alternative media ages you, because look at this guy. Look at what this has done to Kyle. Yeah. I mean, I'm starting here. I'm going to look like the Crypt Keeper in 3 years. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about this. I don't know about you guys. Like, we definitely have some people on our channel, and you know, they're welcome, and we're just honest what our views are. We have some people who are for Marianne. We have some people who are for RFK. More RFK. You get more of that. And I just don't understand what part of we could pick the candidate in a back room if we wanted to. They didn't understand. The DNC literally went into a courtroom and made a case for the idea, and the court ruled in their favor, actually, that they could pick a candidate in a cigar-filled back room. So,
come on, man, stop bringing up facts. You're ruining my vibe right now. We're trying to vibe, okay? We're trying to talk about positive ideas. You know, you're bringing facts, okay? Post-duopoly left just pissed me off.
Well, the thing is, I mean, it's really impossible to be positive in regards to seeing what happened to the progressive movement that started in 2016 with Bernie Sanders. And look, folks, we're going to be having a very rough conversation, and a lot of us are going to come to terms with. I mean, I said on my show, look, I took the L by thinking that Bernie's campaign would be ready in 2020. I was wrong. That was a horrible mistake from my perspective. And for a lot of us, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. But we need to have this conversation so that others
Yep.
don't make the mistakes that we saw in 2016 and 2020. And I fear that people are trying to manufacture something again. And that cannot happen, especially if we want there to be change, because relying on the two-party system or building your network off a presidential candidate, hopes and dreams, and oh no, we lost, let's try again, vote Democrat. We don't have time. This is not the time, and we can't afford it. So for a lot of folks, hey, we're not trying to ruin your vibe. Let this inspire you and, yes, enrage you to be better and to be stronger.
And can we have a conversation about why it's important that we have a post-duopoly leftist, independent alternative media? I mean, these things didn't exist. The YouTube was littered with reformist politics, right? And because the way the same way corporate media does, shut out dissenting opinions and manufacture consent of what the left-wing opinion is, left YouTube has been nothing but social democrats. Weak social democrats, and for a very long time, they will be saying their own echo chamber. Y'all know they're like loud children. Hold on, let me mute real quick. Yeah, it's pretty loud. They were used to for a long time making these arguments without any counter. Like you see Crystal Ball when she was talking to Jordan, when she said third party people grow up, and she was roasted before RBN, before HardLens, before Dissidence. You have these Democrat simps that will make lazy arguments against third parties, but no one there to correct them. Now, for the first time, you have the post-duopoly leftists, you have RBN, you have Dissidence, and HardLens Media that mocks these people, and then they get upset, like, why you guys criticizing people you have you agree on most issues? Before, there was no stock put on strategy. Like, when people say we agree on 95% of the issue, like how much the strategy is a part of that equation? Because I say strategy is a big part of that pie, at least 50%. If we disagree on strategy, we disagree on at least 50%. Strategy is everything. Now, I want to go back to that video because, for one, they lied, because in that video, Mike Figueredo mentioned how they're going to be focused on building third parties as well. Lie. Didn't happen. Did not happen. They are still anti-third party. Secondly, I'm going to ask you guys this question. How is it a smart idea to divide the resources? So what he said, well, historically, third parties have had a hard time winning. Third parties cannot get off the ground. So we have this idea. Well, we're going to have a progressive movement in the Democratic Party, and we also going to build a third party. So you just acknowledge that it's hard to take over the Democratic Party. You acknowledge it's hard to build a third party, but we're somehow going to accomplish both with half resources, where we not all in, not half labor going this way, half resources going this way, but we're going to do something that has not been done with a half in, with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That's ridiculous. Go ahead, kid.
So here's what I think was going on with that mindset back in that time. I think there was a lot of idealism and people being naive. That's the word. And look, hey, I was naive to think that Bernie Sanders campaign would be ready in 2020. I really thought that.
I was naive.
Yeah. And so the thing is, we were all impacted by this. So the thing is, the whole idea of, okay, there's Bernie Sanders and there's this Justice Democrat group, brand new Congress, our revolution coming up. Let's see if we could try and rough them up here, but also do something with third parties, which never came into fruition, by the way. But there was this idea of maybe we could do both. But the real pathway was towards third parties. But people were still holding on to hope for Bernie 2020. And that's why there was all that investment into Justice Democrats, brand new Congress. I mean, TYT captured that lightning in the bottle of the Bernie Sanders campaign. Yep. We have to remember where we were all at that time. I mean, TYT was the only network at that time, and they had a presidential candidate that was universally popular amongst a lot of voters, including Trump supporters, which people don't talk about. And there was the idea of, we can make it repeat itself. Let's try and repeat itself. And they did try to repeat it, but it ended up in failure again. So there was this attempt. People were being naive and held on to quote Obama, the audacity of hope.
I was naive because I thought Bernie or Busters actually meant it. Because I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I was one of those people. I was on the Bernie campaign. And remember where there was like there was hashtag no middle ground that would trend almost every week. No middle ground. Whenever Joe Biden or a neoliberal will say something stupid, no middle ground on climate. Bernie or bust. Bernie or bust. She's a trend. And I was like one of the leading people on this shit. And I was naive because remember, CJ, the conversation we had where we thought the movement was bigger than we thought it than actually was. So I thought the Bernie movement was like, man, we got all these leftists. No, it's fucking liberals. So we was like,
Right.
Bernie or bust, Bernie or bust. No middle ground. They were just performative. They didn't mean that.
Right.
Shit. That was my miscalculation. So I was thinking like, all right, we're gonna support Bernie and these progressives, and then once we lose, we're gonna bounce and we're gonna form a third party and we're gonna counteract the DNC. That did not happen. In fact, it was like 1% voted for Joe Stein in 16, less than one. It was like 0.3% Howie Hawkins in 2020. So I was naive in thinking that there was people in the Bernie movement that was actually serious about having this quote unquote political revolution. But Keaton, I think you want to chime in, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, when Kit mentioned about TYT had their candidate, I think it's important not to give them even more credit than they deserve, because TYT, if you recall, did not endorse Bernie Sanders until like the week before Iowa.
Yeah.
They were fence sitting in the 2020 primary between Bernie and Warren.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
I didn't come up through the TYT branch. I came up through the Tom Hartman. I listened through radio, and that was
CJ,
my route to this.
CJ,
So I didn't know that at all about that.
CJ, shortly after the primary, Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kulinski had a very serious conversation. They was having a debate, and Kyle Kulinski, he was debating why this wasn't post Super Tuesday. This was during the primary. And Kyle Kulinski was arguing why the left should support Bernie Sanders, and Cenk Uygur was ironically arguing why we should back Elizabeth Warren. It's a debate they had.
Yeah, no, they made a whole episode out of it. I believe it was January 2020. May have been December 2019, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was January 2020, less than a month before the Iowa caucuses, where they made this big thing where Cenk endorses, drum roll, right? Because people didn't know. Anna endorses, drum roll, right? I mean, they were fence sitting that whole time. That's number one. Number two, when we talk about how we were naive to think that Sanders had a shot, I think we have to be a little bit easier on ourselves. He did enter that contest a front runner. And so at the time, it was worth one more chance, right? I in retrospect, still don't believe that it wasn't worth that one more chance. Once you get to the quote unquote 5-yard line, as Jordan said, and they take it away. Once you get to a point where they allow Mike Bloomberg to buy his way onto the debate stage, it was against the party rules, by the way. They broke the party rules to let him onto that stage. He entered that race because they became unconfident, should we say, that Biden could beat Sanders. That's why they let Bloomberg into that race.
Yep.
Once they did that, once the Iowa vote counting app broke, right? And then once Obama made that phone call and got Pete and Amy out of that race, and they took it from us when we thought we were on the 5-yard line, past that point, there's no excuse. And past that point is when we said, okay, that's it. No more. No more, no more, no more. And we were not bluffing. And some of the people who I'm sure we're going to talk about later, certain names come to mind. I will trust you guys to pull the video and audio if you want. Certain people talk to big game.
Keaton is always starting trouble. Keaton is always starting trouble.
Certain people talk to big game, and turns out they were bluffing. They did not have the follow through. If they had the follow through, they would not be uttering a word about Marianne Williamson or, I'm sorry, R.F. Kennedy Jr. I'm not a Kennedy Democrat. If you are, God bless you, not me.
People keep saying like, man, what do you think about RFK? Like, I know you don't like Marianne. Were you gonna support RFK? I'm like, bro, I'm not voting in the Democratic primary.
Exactly.
I was not even wasting my time to vote.
You know what I don't understand? It's almost like they weren't here for the discussion about us not doing this. Like, where did all these people who are now pushing, even some of the people who are some of the forefront of advocacy for this whole Marianne Williamson push? It was like, you were here for the same conversations. You know how we were fed up and what happened here?
And they're telling you up front that this is going to end with them telling you to vote for Biden because That if they were not going to do that, they'd say, yes, once they sabotage my campaign or I lose, whatever, I'm still going to be running. They would say that now, right? And then we'd be having a completely different conversation. RFK is already pulling the my good friend Joe shit.
And I can't stand that.
What are you stuck on stupid? What part?
He has to be.
And don't you remember that with Bernie Sanders? No, I mean the people who beyond that point still want to support him. Don't you get it? Don't you remember that with Bernie? His good friend Joe, what do you have, amnesia from 2020? You don't.
No, we got people in our chat who start crying when we rag on RFK. It's like, I'm sorry, did you just wander into this show 3 days ago? We've been saying this for a couple of years at this point.
Well, I think also people are creatures of habit, and we have to remember that this is something a lot of Americans are heavily programmed into believing. They're believing into what they see in corporate media, and they want to try one more time to see if they could upset the establishment.